historians write that Native Americans descended from Northeast Asia, arriving over a land bridge between Siberia and Alaska 12,000 years ago to enter the North American continent. Do you think America was uninhabited 12,000 years ago, since Homo Sapiens appeared 200,000 years before that? Ask yourself the following questions. Number 1. If Native Americans or the Clovis People crossed the Bering Straits 12,000 years ago on a land bridge, how did the Clovis culture become indigenous to America, arriving 56,000 years after the aboriginal people who were already here? Question number 2. If current research shows that people having the same DNA as Australian Aborigines originating in Africa 60,000 years ago, who were present in the American continents before the Bering Strait crossing, do you believe the Amerindians and Indigenous people mixed together, creating the Native Americans we see today? Question 3. Do you believe the linguistic symbols of the Cherokee tribe contain the same writing codes as the African Mende script? Question 4. 500,000 enslaved Africans arrived on North American shores, but the indigenous population was 10 million before Christopher Columbus arrived. Question 5. Have you heard of the Bimini Road underwater structures near the Bahama Islands, which are 56,000 years old, that reveal ancient Egyptian oceanic travel? Mounds similar to those are still in existence throughout America, along with pyramid structures 3 times the size of the pyramids in Egypt. Harvard scholar Henry Louis Gates, who has a television show, Finding Your Roots, claims the average African American has less than 1% Native American blood. He also claims black folks did not arrive in America until the 1600s. Native Americans became slaveholders, and slaves intermarried with the natives, creating the black natives we see today. His research claims black folks have more European blood running through their veins than Native American blood. According to Gates, a person has 1,024 genealogical ancestors from 10 generations ago and have DNA from about 500 of them. An ancestor's DNA must fall within the window of inheritability to determine ancestry. African slaves were imported to replenish the dwindling indigenous population. More black natives were sent to Central and South America as slaves than were imported from Africa. Blacks already living here found themselves caught up in the slave trade. Since certain genetic variations are typical in certain areas, the variations can be used to estimate where an individual's ancestors originated. How can anyone tell you this ancestor lived in or even traveled through Africa or Europe? Genes are not and have never been tied down to any landmass any more than being tied down to a nationality. Following is a portion of Ikua Kenyatta's radio show, I Was Just Thinking, that aired on the Caribbean radio station 1 year ago, where we were discussing the very same topic.
My next question is, why do you think there is a possibility that the slave trade was not as extensive as it was recorded?
Well, I don't think it's as extensive as what's reported, because the Transatlantic Slave Trade Database says that over the 310-year period of which there was human trafficking going on as far as them bringing slaves from Africa to the United States, over that 310-year period, there were 1,400 voyages made. So, you know, if you look at that number and you know that out of those voyages that each ship, the largest ships, could carry 400 people at one time, and probably half of those people died because of the way they packed the slave ships. That means that in order for what they're saying is there are 20 million slaves that were supposedly brought to the Americas. They would have, when they say they made 1,400 voyages, in order to have 20 million people here, they would have had to make 43,000 voyages, or almost 44,000 trips, and not the 1,400 they claim. So my take on this is that what really is going on is I don't think the slave trade was as huge as they claimed it was, because black people were already here. And we know that Columbus and some of the other people that came to America enslaved the Native Americans. And what
you're saying is a lot of the people that were enslaved had already existed here, or had already lived here.
That's what I think, because there's no way that if 1,400 voyages were made, how we could end up with 20 million slaves being transported with 1,400 voyages. It says, the statistics say that there were 600,000 slaves in the 13 colonies. And I think that in the United States, they're saying that, we had, about 12 million slaves that were transported. But there's no way, if you take the 1,400 voyages over the 300 years and you multiply by 400, 400 people per ship, that you're going to end up with that many people being here in the Americas already. That doesn't account for about 20 million slaves, or 20 million people that they claim to have brought here. I just think that we were probably already here. And again, slavery was used as a method to disguise history, or to rewrite history. They didn't want people to know that black people were already here, so they blamed it on slavery.